The rain was falling hard that night. Marcus stood at his post outside the royal estate, water dripping from his cap, his boots soaked through. He had been a royal guard for 11 years. He knew the rules. He followed orders. He never questioned protocol. But tonight, everything was about to change. Inside the Grand Hall, Catherine, the Duchess of Ravenhill, was hosting a formal dinner. Diplomats, ministers, and foreign guests filled the room. The kind of event where one wrong move could end a career. Marcus could hear the faint sound of violins through the heavy oak doors. He could see shadows moving behind the tall windows. Everything looked perfect. Then he heard the scream. It was faint, almost swallowed by the rain. But it was there. A woman's voice. Sharp. Terrified. Marcus froze. His hand went to the radio on his belt. Protocol said he should report it. Wait for orders. Stay at his post. The chain of command was everything in royal security. You didn't move without permission, but something in that scream made his blood run cold. He turned toward the east wing of the estate. The old servants' entrance. The part of the building that wasn't used during formal events. It was supposed to be locked, empty, secure. Another scream. Closer this time, Marcus made a choice. He left his post. He ran through the rain. Boots splashing in puddles, his heart pounding in his chest. The east wing door was cracked open. That was wrong. That door was always locked during events. Always. He pushed it open. The hallway inside was dark, cold. The lights were off. He could hear something now. Not screaming, sobbing, low and desperate. He pulled his flashlight from his belt and moved forward. His breath was loud in the silence. His hand stayed near his weapon. Every instinct told him this was a trap, test, a mistake, but he kept moving. At the end of the hall, he saw her, Catherine, the Duchess herself. She was on the floor, her elegant gown torn at the shoulder, her face pale and streaked with tears. Blood ran from a cut above her eyebrow. Standing over her was a man, tall, dressed in black, a knife in his hand. Marcus didn't think. He didn't call for backup. He didn't follow protocol. He charged. The man turned. The knife flashed. Marcus felt the blade slice across his forearm, but he didn't stop. He slammed into the man with all his weight, driving him into the wall. The knife clattered to the floor. They fought. Hard. Brutal. No training. Just survival. Marcus landed a punch that sent the man crashing into a table. Then another. The man went down, didn't get back up. Breathing hard, Marcus turned to Catherine. She was still on the floor, staring at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. "Your Grace," he said, his voice shaking. "Are you hurt?" She didn't answer at first. She just looked at him. At the blood on his arm, at the man on the floor, at the door he'd left wide open. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to be here." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Those words, that tone. He realized what he'd done. He'd broken protocol. He'd left his post. He'd entered a restricted area without orders. Any one of those things could end his career, get him arrested, thrown out in disgrace. And Catherine knew it. Before you find out what happens next. If you love real stories that hit you in the heart, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Marcus knelt beside her, his mind racing. "Your Grace, I heard you scream." "I had to. You had to." "Nothing," she said, her voice steadier now. "You should have radioed it in. You should have stayed at your post." She was right. He knew she was right, but then her hand reached out. She gripped his wrist, hard, her eyes locked onto his. "Thank you," she whispered, and in that moment, Marcus realized this night was only beginning. Asterisk within minutes, the hallway was flooded with guards. Radios crackled. Boots pounded against marble floors. Commander Hayes, the head of Royal Security, arrived with 6 men behind him. His face was stone. He looked at Catherine, at the man on the floor, at Marcus standing there with blood dripping from his arm. What happened? Hayes demanded. Catherine stood slowly. She brushed dirt from her gown. Her face was calm now, controlled. The terrified woman from moments ago was gone. This was the Duchess. The woman who had survived scandal, political attacks, and years in the public eye. "This man attacked me," she said, her voice clear. "He was waiting in the hallway. He grabbed me, tried to drag me outside." Hayes looked at the man on the floor, then at Marcus. "And you." Marcus felt every eye in the room on him. His throat was dry. "I heard her scream, sir. I came to help. You left your post." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "Yes, sir." He'd stepped closer. His voice dropped low. "Dangerous. Abandon your position during a formal state event. You entered a restricted area. You engaged a threat without authorization. Do you understand what you've done?" Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. He had broken every rule, and Hayes was going to make sure he paid for it. But then Catherine spoke. "He saved my life." Hayes turned to her. "Your Grace, with respect, that's not the issue. Protocol exists for a reason. If every guard acted on instinct, we'd have chaos. Marcus should have radioed for backup. He should have let me die." Catherine's voice was sharp now, cold, the kind of voice that reminded everyone in the room who she was. "Is that what you're saying, Commander?" Hayes's jaw tightened. "Of course not, Your Grace. But there is no but." She walked toward Hayes, her heels clicking on the floor. "This man heard me screaming. He came to help. He stopped an attacker who could have killed me. And you want to punish him for that?" "I want to maintain discipline," Hayes said. "If we let guards break protocol whenever they feel like it, the entire security system falls apart." Catherine stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to Marcus. "What's your name?" "Marcus Hale, Your Grace." "How long have you been a guard here, Marcus?" 11 years, Your Grace. 11 years. She looked back at Hayes. 11 years of service. Clean record. Never a complaint. And tonight, when it mattered most, he made the right choice. Hayes didn't back down. "The right choice is following orders." "The right choice," Catherine said slowly, "is protecting the people you're sworn to protect, even if it means breaking a rule." The room went silent. The other guards shifted uncomfortably. No one wanted to be caught in the middle of this. Catherine looked at Marcus again. There was something in her eyes, something more than gratitude. It was recognition, understanding, like she saw something in him that no one else did. "Commander Hayes," she said, her tone final, "Marcus will not be punished. Is that clear?" Hayes's face flushed red. "Your Grace, I must insist," I said. "Is that clear?" Hayes clenched his fists. For a moment, Marcus thought he might actually argue, might push back. But then he nodded stiffly. "Yes, Your Grace. Good." Catherine turned away. "Now get this man to medical, and find out who sent that attacker." The guards moved quickly after that. 2 of them hauled the unconscious man to his feet. Another called for medical. Hayes barked orders, his voice tight with barely controlled anger, but Marcus stood frozen. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Catherine had protected him, defended him, risked her own authority to keep him safe. Why? As the chaos continued around them, Catherine walked past Marcus. She paused for just a second, leaned close. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Meet me in the garden, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Then she was gone, sweeping down the hallway with 2 guards at her side. Marcus stood there, his arms still bleeding, his mind spinning. What had he just gotten himself into? The next morning, Marcus woke to find his small apartment filled with flowers. Roses, lilies, orchids, expensive. Arrangements that must have cost more than he made in a month. There was no card, no note. But he knew who they were from. He reported for duty that afternoon. The other guards looked at him differently now. Some with respect, some with suspicion. A few wouldn't even meet his eyes. Hayes called him into his office. The commander sat behind his desk, his face unreadable. "You got lucky," Hayes said. "The Duchess likes you." For now, Marcus said nothing. But luck runs out, Hale, and when it does, I'll be waiting. It was a threat, clear as day. Hayes wanted him gone, and he'd find a way to make it happen. Marcus left the office feeling like he was walking on a tightrope. One wrong step, and he'd fall. But the real question wasn't about Hayes. It was about Catherine. Why did she want to meet him? What did she want? And why did the thought of seeing her again make his heart race? Asterisk 9 o'clock came faster than Marcus expected. He stood at the edge of the royal garden, hidden in shadows, his heart hammering in his chest. This was wrong. Meeting a member of the royal family alone, at night without clearance. If anyone found out, not even Catherine could save him. But he was here anyway. The garden was beautiful. Lanterns hung from trees, casting soft golden light across stone paths. Roses bloomed in perfect rows. Fountains whispered in the darkness. It was the kind of place where secrets were kept. You came. Marcus turned. Catherine stood behind him, dressed simply now. A dark coat over a plain dress. No jewels, no crown. She looked almost normal, almost human, Your Grace. Catherine, she said quietly. When we're alone, you can call me Catherine. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. She walked closer, studied his face. Your arm. How is it? Fine, just a scratch. Scratch that required 12 stitches, so she'd been checking on him. The thought sent a strange warmth through his chest. Why did you want to see me? He asked. Catherine looked away. Toward the fountain. The water caught the light, shimmering like diamonds. I needed to thank you properly, without an audience. You already thanked me. Protected your job, she said. That's not the same as gratitude. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small box, velvet, dark blue. She held it out to him. I can't accept that, Marcus said immediately. You haven't even opened it. It doesn't matter. I'm a guard. I'm a woman who was almost killed, Catherine said, her voice suddenly sharp. And you're the man who saved me? Take the box, Marcus. He took it. Not because he wanted to, but because the weight in her voice made it impossible to refuse. Inside was a medal, silver, old, beautiful, engraved with a coat of arms he didn't recognize. It belonged to my father, Catherine said softly. He gave it to me before he died. Told me to give it to someone who proved that honor still exists in this world. Marcus stared at the medal. I can't take this. You already have. She closed his hand around the box. Her fingers were warm against his skin. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them felt heavy, charged. Then Catherine stepped back. There's something else you should know. About that night. Marcus looked up. What? The man who attacked me? His name was Victor Rosen. He's been arrested. But he's not talking. Won't say who hired him. Won't say why he was there. You think someone sent him? Catherine's laugh was bitter. Marcus, people don't just wander into royal estates with knives. Of course someone sent him who... She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I have enemies. People who want me gone. People in power. People I can't touch. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying someone in the government tried to have you killed? I'm saying I don't know who I can trust anymore. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. Except you. That was dangerous. Marcus knew it immediately. Trust was a weapon, and she was handing it to him. Why me? He asked. Because you didn't hesitate. Everyone else would have followed protocol. Would have waited. Would have let me die rather than risk their career. Her eyes were bright with something that looked like tears. But you didn't. You ran toward danger. You saved me. And you didn't ask for anything in return? I was doing my job. No, Catherine shook her head. You were being human. And that's rarer than you think. Marcus didn't know what to say. He'd never been good with words. Especially not with women like her. Women who lived in palaces and wore crowns and carried the weight of nations on their shoulders. Commander Hayes is going to come after me, Marcus said finally. He doesn't like what happened. Doesn't like that you overruled him, I know. Then why did you protect me? Catherine smiled. It was sad. Tired. Because I'm tired of people following orders that get good people killed. I'm tired of protocol being more important than lives. And I'm tired of being surrounded by people who only care about their own careers. She stepped closer again, close enough that Marcus could smell her perfume. Something soft, floral. You're different, Marcus, and I need different right now. Before he could respond, a sound echoed through the garden. Footsteps. Someone was coming. Catherine's face changed instantly. The vulnerability disappeared. The Duchess returned. You need to go now. But go. Marcus didn't argue. He turned and slipped into the shadows, moving quickly through the garden paths. Behind him, he heard voices. Hayes and another guard. Your Grace, you shouldn't be out here alone. I needed air, Commander. Is that a crime? Marcus didn't hear the rest. He was already gone, his heart pounding, the metal box still clutched in his hand. When he got back to his apartment, he opened the box again. The metal gleamed in the light. On the back there was an inscription he hadn't noticed before. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Marcus set the medal on his dresser. He stared at it for a long time. Catherine had given him something precious. Something personal. Something that meant she trusted him. And trust, Marcus was starting to realize, was the most dangerous gift of all. 3 weeks passed. Marcus went back to his regular duties. Patrols. Gate checks. Standing at doors while important people discussed things he'd never understand. But everything felt different now. The other guards watched him. Hayes watched him. And somewhere in the palace, Catherine watched him too. He felt her presence even when he couldn't see her. In the hallways, during shift changes, like a thread connecting them that no one else could see. Then one morning, everything changed again. Marcus was assigned to Catherine's personal detail, close protection. It meant following her everywhere, standing outside her office, accompanying her to meetings, being within arm's reach at all times. Hayes delivered the news himself. His face was carved from ice. It came from the top, he said. The Duchess requested you specifically. Marcus kept his expression neutral. Understood, sir. Don't let it go to your head, Hale. You're still just a guard. Remember that. But Marcus knew what this meant. Catherine wanted him close, and that should have felt like an honor. Instead, it felt like a target on his back. The first day was awkward. Catherine held meetings with ministers and advisors. Marcus stood by the door, silent and still. She never looked at him, never acknowledged him. To everyone else he was furniture, invisible. But when the room emptied, she would glance his way. Just for a second, a small smile, a nod, then back to work. It became a routine. Meetings, silence, stolen glances. Marcus learned her schedule by heart. Morning briefings at 8. Lunch at noon, usually in her private office. Afternoon meetings until 6. Then dinner with dignitaries or alone. He also learned her tells. The way she rubbed her temple when she was stressed, the tightness around her eyes when someone lied to her, the soft sigh she made when she was alone and thought no one was watching. He was watching. Always watching. And so was someone else. Marcus noticed him during a charity gala. A man in a gray suit, tall, thin, watching Catherine from across the room. Not like the other guests. Not with admiration or interest. With calculation. Like she was a problem he needed to solve. Marcus moved closer to Catherine, his hand drifting toward his weapon. The man noticed, smiled, then disappeared into the crowd. Later that night, Marcus mentioned it to Hayes. There was someone at the gala. Watching her grace, something felt wrong. Hayes barely looked up from his paperwork. Everyone watches her. She's the Duchess. This was different. Different how? Marcus struggled to put it into words. Like he was waiting for something. Hayes sighed. Closed his folder. Hell, I know the Duchess asked for you on her detail, but that doesn't make you head of security. If you see a real threat, report it. Otherwise, do your job and stay out of mine. Marcus left the office frustrated, but he couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong. He just couldn't prove it. That night, Catherine called him to her study. It was late. Past midnight. The palace was quiet. Too quiet. She was at her desk, papers spread everywhere. She looked exhausted. Older somehow. "You wanted to see me, Your Grace?" "I told you, Catherine." She gestured to a chair. "Sit." Marcus hesitated. "That's not appropriate." "Nothing about this situation is appropriate," she said. "Sit down, Marcus." He sat. It felt wrong. Guards didn't sit in the presence of royalty. They stood. They protected. They stayed invisible. But Catherine wasn't looking at him like he was a guard. She was looking at him like he was human. Asterisk. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something I shouldn't tell you?" "But I don't have anyone else I can trust." Marcus's pulse quickened. "What is it?" "The investigation into Victor Rosen, the man who attacked me. It's been shut down." "What? Why?" "Orders from the Interior Ministry. They say there's no evidence of a conspiracy, that he acted alone, that pursuing it further would waste resources." Marcus felt anger flare in his chest. "That's insane. You said yourself someone sent him." "I know." Catherine's hands trembled slightly. "But I can't prove it. And the people who could help me are the same people who might want me dead." "Then go public. Tell the press." Tell them what?" Her voice rose. "That I think members of my own government are trying to kill me? Without proof? They'd call me paranoid, unstable. They'd use it to push me out." She stood, paced to the window. Outside, the garden was dark, except for scattered lamplight. "I've made enemies, Marcus. Political enemies. I pushed for reforms they didn't like. I exposed corruption they wanted hidden. And now they want me gone." Asterisk. Marcus stood too. "Then let me protect you, properly. Increase security. Change your routes. Screen everyone who Hayes won't approve it. He says, I'm being dramatic, that the investigation cleared everything." She turned to face him. "And maybe he's right. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe Victor was just a madman who got lucky." "You don't believe that?" "No," her voice cracked. "I don't." Marcus crossed the room before he could stop himself. Stood in front of her, close enough to see the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion. "Then tell me what you need," he said quietly, "and I'll do it. I need someone I can trust. Someone who won't sell me out for a promotion or a favor. Someone who will tell me the truth, even when it's hard." She looked up at him. "Can you be that person?" Marcus knew what she was really asking. She wasn't just asking for a guard. She was asking for an ally. A friend, maybe more. And he knew how dangerous that was. For both of them. But he also knew he'd already made his choice. The night he ran toward her screams. The night he broke protocol and saved her life. "Yes," he said. "I can." Catherine's shoulders sagged with relief. She reached out, squeezed his hand. Her skin was warm, soft. "Thank you." They stood like that for a moment, hand in hand, in the quiet of her study, and Marcus felt something shift between them, something deeper than duty, stronger than protocol, something that would either save them both or destroy them completely. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Catherine pulled her hand back, straightened her shoulders. The vulnerable woman disappeared. The Duchess returned. "Enter." Hayes stepped inside. His eyes went to Marcus, then to Catherine. Something flickered across his face. Suspicion, or maybe understanding. "Your Grace, I need to speak with you alone." Catherine nodded. "Of course, Commander." "Marcus, you're dismissed." Marcus left. But as he walked away, he could hear Hayes's voice through the door. Low, urgent, angry. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that Hayes had just become his enemy. The next morning, Marcus was removed from Catherine's detail. No explanation. No warning. Just a new assignment posted on the board. He was back on perimeter patrol, the furthest position from Catherine possible. Hayes had made his move. Marcus went to the commander's office. Hayes didn't even look up from his desk. You have a problem, Hale? Why was I reassigned? Because I decided you were better suited elsewhere. The Duchess requested me specifically. His eyes were cold. And I'm her head of security. Which means I decide who protects her, not her. Not you, me. This is because of last night. Hayes stood slowly, walked around his desk, got close. Last night I saw you in her study, alone, after midnight. Holding her hand, Marcus felt his stomach drop. It wasn't what? Inappropriate? Unprofessional. A complete violation of every boundary that exists between a guard and a member of the royal family. She was upset. You were overstepping, Hayes snapped. You think because she likes you that you're special? That the rules don't apply? I've seen this before, Hale. Guards who get too close. Who start thinking they matter. It never ends well. Marcus kept his voice steady. I'm doing my job. Your job is to stand and watch. Not to hold private meetings. Not to accept gifts. Not to play confidant to a woman who should know better. Hayes moved even closer. I'm reassigning you because you've lost perspective. And if you can't see that, then you're more dangerous to her than any attacker. The words hit like a punch, because part of Marcus's knew Hayes was right. He had crossed lines. He had let himself become something more than a guard. But another part of him knew that Catherine needed him. That without him, she was vulnerable. Request a transfer then, Marcus said. If I'm such a problem, transfer me off the estate completely. Hayes smiled. It wasn't kind. Oh no. You're staying right where I can see you. On the perimeter, far from her grace. And if you try to contact her, if you try to bypass my orders, I'll have you fired so fast you won't know what hit you. Marcus left before he said something he'd regret. His hands were shaking. His mind was racing. Hayes had boxed him in. Cut him off from Catherine completely, and there was nothing he could do about it. Days passed. Marcus walked the outer walls, checked gates, watched the road, all the while thinking about Catherine, wondering if she was safe, if she was scared, if she thought he'd abandoned her. Then on the 5th day, he found a note slipped under his apartment door. No signature. Just 2 words written in elegant script. North Garden, midnight. Marcus knew it was from her. He also knew it was a trap. If Hayes found out, that would be the end of everything. But he went anyway. Catherine was waiting by the fountain. She wore a dark hood, her face hidden in shadow. She looked like a ghost. You came, she whispered. I shouldn't be here, I know. She stepped closer. Hayes removed you from my detail. He thinks I'm getting too close to you. Are you? The question hung in the air between them. Marcus knew the right answer, the safe answer. But he was tired of lying, yes? Catherine closed her eyes, breathed out slowly. So am I. The admission felt like a confession, like they'd both said something they couldn't take back. This can't happen, Marcus said. You know that, I know. She looked at him, really looked at him. But it already has, hasn't it? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew the truth. I found something, Catherine said, changing the subject. About Victor. The man who attacked me? Marcus went still. What? He had a visitor. 3 days before the investigation was shut down. A visitor who wasn't logged, who came and went without a record. How did you find out? I have friends. People who owe me favors. They've been digging quietly. She pulled out a piece of paper, handed it to Marcus. The visitor signed in under a false name, but security footage caught his face. Marcus looked at the grainy photo. The man was older. Gray hair, expensive suit, and Marcus had seen him before at the charity gala, watching Catherine, waiting. Who is he? Marcus asked. His name is Edmund Thorne. He's a deputy minister in the Interior Ministry, and he's the one who ordered the investigation shut down. Marcus felt ice in his veins. He visited the man who tried to kill you. then shut down the investigation into that same attack. Yes. That's not a coincidence. No. Catherine's voice was shaking now. It's a conspiracy. Edmund is working with someone higher up, someone who wants me dead. Marcus looked at the photo again, memorized every detail of Thorne's face. We need to take this to someone. The police. The press. Someone with what proof? A visitor log that shouldn't exist? Footage that could be explained away? It's not enough. Not yet. Then what do we do? Catherine was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, harder. We find more proof. We dig deeper. And we expose whoever's behind this before they try again. That's dangerous. I'm already in danger, Marcus. At least this way I'm fighting back, Marcus wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her to run, to hide, to let someone else handle this. But he knew she wouldn't listen. Catherine wasn't the type to run from a fight. Then I'm helping you, he said. Hayes will fire you if he finds out. I don't care. You should. You have a career, a life. You don't need to risk everything for you? Marcus stepped closer. Yes, I do. Catherine stared at him. In the moonlight, her eyes were bright, wet, like she might cry. Why? She whispered. Because you're brave, Marcus thought. Because you're fighting for what's right even when it's hard. Because when I look at you, I see someone worth protecting. But what he said was simpler. Because it's the right thing to do, Catherine smiled. It was small, sad, but real. You're a good man, Marcus Hale. I'm just a guard. No. She reached out, touched his face. Just for a moment. You're so much more than that. Then she was gone, disappearing into the shadows like she was never there. Marcus stood alone in the garden, his heart pounding, her words echoing in his head. You're so much more than that. He didn't feel like more. He felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. One step away from falling, but he also felt something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. And that, Marcus realized, was worth everything. Asterisk Marcus and Catherine spent the next 2 weeks digging. Quietly, carefully, she used her connections to pull records. He used his access to watch people. They met in secret. Always late. Always hidden. Every meeting was a risk. Every conversation could be their last. They found more connections. Thorne had been at 3 private dinners with other ministers in the weeks before the attack. Money had moved through offshore accounts. Contracts had been awarded to companies with questionable ties. It all pointed to something bigger. A network of corruption that Catherine had threatened by pushing her reforms. But it still wasn't enough. They needed something concrete. Something undeniable. Then Catherine found it. She called Marcus to the North Garden again. This time, she was different. Excited. Scared. She held a USB drive in her hand like it was made of gold. Asterisk, I got it. She said. Emails. Between Thorne and a man named Richard Ashford. He's the senior minister overseeing security policy. What do the emails say? That I'm a problem. That my reforms threaten their arrangements. That something needs to be done before I expose them. Her hand was shaking. And there's one email, dated 2 days before the attack. It says the solution is moving forward. It will look like a random incident. Marcus felt rage burn through him. They ordered it. They tried to have you killed. Yes. We take this to the authorities. Tonight. And who do we trust? The police? They report to Ashford. The press? Half of them are paid off. Catherine's voice cracked. These people have power, Marcus. Real power. If we move too soon, they'll bury this. In me. Then what do we do? Catherine looked at him. Her eyes were fierce now, determined. We go bigger. We release everything. Every email, every transaction, every connection, all at once, so they can't cover it up. I have a contact. A journalist I trust. She's been investigating government corruption for years. If we give her this, she'll run with it. She'll make sure the whole country sees. Marcus nodded slowly. When? Tomorrow night. There's a state banquet. Every major official will be there, including Ashford and Thorne. While they're distracted, the story breaks. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. It was a good plan. Bold, risky, but good. What about Hayes? Marcus asked. He'll know I'm involved. Catherine hesitated. Yes, he will. Marcus knew what that meant. His career was over. Hayes would make sure of it. Maybe worse. But when he looked at Catherine, standing there with that USB drive in her hand, risking everything to expose the truth, he knew his choice had already been made. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." Catherine's face softened. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She stepped closer, put her hand on his chest, right over his heart. "When this is over, if we survive, everything changes. You understand that?" Marcus covered her hand with his. "I know. We can't go back to how things were." "I don't want to." Catherine looked up at him, and for the first time, Marcus saw something other than fear or determination in her eyes. He saw hope. She leaned up, kissed him, soft, brief, like a promise. Then she pulled back. "Tomorrow?" she whispered. "Tomorrow?" The next night arrived too fast. The banquet hall was filled with lights and music and powerful people. Catherine moved through the crowd in a stunning gown, smiling and shaking hands, playing her part perfectly. Marcus watched from his position on the outer perimeter. Hayes had kept him as far from Catherine as possible, but Marcus could still see her. Still track her movements? At exactly 9 o'clock, Catherine's journalist contact received the files. By 9:15, the story was online. By 9:30, it was everywhere. Marcus watched as phones started buzzing throughout the hall. As faces went pale, as Ashford and Thorne realized what was happening, Ashford stormed toward Catherine. His face was twisted with rage. Marcus moved without thinking, crossed the room, put himself between them. "Get out of my way," Ashford snarled. "No, sir." I said move. "I'm not moving." Hayes appeared then. His face was red. "Furious, Hayes. Stand down now." Marcus looked at Hayes, then at Catherine. She was watching him with those eyes. Those brave, terrified eyes. "No," Marcus said. The room went silent. Every guard, every guest, everyone watching. Hayes stepped closer. "That's insubordination." "You're finished, I know." "Then why?" Marcus looked at Catherine. "Because it's the right thing to do." Hayes stared at him for a long moment. Then something changed in his face. The anger faded. And for just a second, Marcus thought he saw respect. "You're an idiot, Hale," Hayes said quietly, "but you've got guts." Then he turned to his team. "Secure Minister Ashford and Deputy Minister Thorne. They're under investigation for conspiracy and attempted murder." Ashford's face went white. "You can't? I can. And I am." Hayes looked at Catherine. "Your Grace, we'll need your full cooperation with the investigation." Catherine nodded. "Of course, Commander." As guards moved to detain Ashford and Thorne, chaos erupted. Guests scrambling. Officials shouting. Cameras flashing. But Marcus only watched Catherine. She was crying, smiling, free. Hayes walked back to Marcus. "You're still fired." Marcus nodded. "I expected that. But not today. Today, you're a hero." Hayes held out his hand. "Good work, Hale." Marcus shook it. "Thank you, sir." As Hayes walked away, Catherine crossed the room. She stood in front of Marcus. In front of everyone, and she didn't care who was watching. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't do anything. You did everything." She took his hand. Right there. In front of the guards and the guests and the cameras, you broke protocol. You trusted me. You saved my life. Twice. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "What happens now?" Catherine smiled. "I don't know, but we'll figure it out together." 3 months later, Ashford and Thorne were convicted. The corruption network was exposed. Catherine's reforms passed. and Marcus found himself offered a new position, head of personal security for the Duchess. Hayes retired, said Marcus had earned it, said he'd never seen anyone fight for what was right the way Marcus had. On Marcus's first day in his new role, Catherine called him to her study. When he arrived, she was standing by the window, looking out at the garden. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Everything that happened?" Marcus thought about the night he heard her scream, the choice he made, the protocol he broke, everything that came after. "No," he said. "I don't." Catherine turned, smiled. "Neither do I." She crossed the room, took his hand, and this time, when she kissed him, it wasn't a promise. It was a beginning. Because sometimes the right choice isn't following the rules. Sometimes it's knowing when to break them. And Marcus had learned that the hard way. He'd broken protocol for Catherine. He'd risked everything. His career, his safety, his life, and he'd do it again. Every time, without hesitation, because some things, some people, are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. And as Marcus held Catherine in his arms, in the quiet of her study, he knew with absolute certainty that he'd made the right choice. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. And that, in the end, was all that mattered.